Hi, I'm Nancy with Creative Cuts. Thanks for joining me. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create your own custom tags in Make the Cut, like the one that you see on the screen right now. So I'm going to start by coming over and turning on the Node Editing toolbar. I like to get at the Basic Shapes menu through that. It's a little bit easier, I find. So I'm going to click on Add Basic Shapes. And now you'll notice when you come in here, there are a number of tags already included in Make the Cut, but what we're going to do is actually create one from scratch. So I'm going to start by going to Polygons, and I'm going to use a rectangle. So when I do that, I get a tool that just allows me to draw out a rectangle. Now the proportions of the rectangle are preset, so when you draw it out, you'll notice that you can't make it any wider than it wants to be, but you can change that manually once you've drawn it. So I'm just going to drop all the shapes onto the mat first that I need. So I've got my rectangle. I'm going to come back to Basic Shapes, and I'm going to come to Generic, and I'm going to grab a circle. Draw out a circle, and I'm not going to worry too much about the precise size right now. I'm just going to get all the shapes onto the mat, and then I'm going to start resizing them. And I'm going to grab one more circle here. Draw that out. Now I could have also just duplicated the circle that I already had, but I decided to draw another one instead. So now I'm going to come back up to the normal edit tool, the little arrow, and you'll notice that all of my objects are selected. So I'm going to click on the mat to deselect them so that I can select them and work with them one at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the basic size of the tag that I'm making, and I want to make it just a little bit wider. So right now I've got a tag that's about 2.5 inches wide by about 4 inches tall, so that'll work right there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this circle onto the tag, and I'm going to stretch it out a little bit so it's actually more of an oval. Move that down so there's just the top of the oval showing on the tag. And I'm going to grab this circle and I'm going to resize it. Now you need to make sure that you've got the double-ended arrows to resize. So I'll just grab that, squeeze it down a little bit, and I'm going to add that right on top there. Just make some adjustments so that it's the way that I want it. Okay, so this is just some basic shapes, and of course you can experiment with all different shapes and sizes to create all kinds of custom tags. So now what I'm going to do before I actually merge these shapes together, I need to make sure that they're perfectly aligned down the center. So I'm just going to click and drag all the way around to select all of the shapes, and then I'm going to right click, select Align in Space, Align, and then Vertical Center. And you'll notice when I did that the shape shifted just slightly, so now I know that everything is perfectly lined up. Now I'm going to come down to the bottom and click on Weld, and what that does is takes all of the shapes and turns them into one shape. So that's the basic shape of the tag. Now for this tag I actually want to create a base tag as well, an outline, so I'm going to cut it out slightly larger in a contrasting color, and that'll just help it pop off of my project a little bit more. So what I need to do is create a shadow layer. So I'm going to right click on the shape on my tag. I'm going to come down to Shape Magic, Shadow Layer, and this dialog box will pop up. Now the first thing I want to do for this, where it says corner join, right now it says rounded, I want to make sure that says mitered, and that means that I'll get some nice square corners rather than rounded corners. And then all I need to do is just drag out the shadow width slider to adjust the size of the shadow layer, move that to the side, and you can see on the mat here you actually see in actual size how big your underlying layer is going to be. So that looks pretty good right about there. I'm going to click on Accept. And now you can see down here in the Layers palette that I actually have two layers. I have the default layer, which is the shape that I started with, and then I also have the shadow layer, which is the one that we just created. So that's your basic tag. Now you can also add a hole to this. If you prefer, you can punch the hole after the tag is cut out, but I like to just let Make the Cut do all the work for me, so I'm going to add my hole onto this. So for that I need another little circle, so I'm going to come back to Add Basic Shapes, and now you can see when I go to Recently Used, all of the different shapes that I've used in my last few projects are showing up here. So I'm just going to select Circle, and I'm going to draw out a little circle. And go back to the normal tool. And then you might just need to resize the circle a little bit to make sure that it's the right size for your project. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so it's a bit easier to see what we're doing. Okay, so the size of that circle looks pretty good. That's about the size that I need. Now, it looks like what I've done here is I've added the circle to this shadow layer. You can see on the little icon here I've got the shape and then I've got the circle. So I want to get that circle onto its own layer, and that's nice and easy to do. All I do is right-click on the shadow layer and click on To Each Its Own. And what that will do is take each shape on the layer and move it onto its own layer. So now I've got the circle here on its own layer. I'm just going to click the up arrow so that it pops right to the top, and now I can select it. Now what I need to do is duplicate this circle because I'm going to be cutting it out of the basic layer and also out of the shadow layer. So I need two circles to do that with. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to say copy, right click again, and then paste in place. And that gives me two circles, one right on top of each other. Now down here again you can see that that second circle has been added to the shadow layer again, and I just need to get it onto its own layer. So To Each Its Own, and now you can see that I've got two circles. So first I'm going to select the top circle, I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to select this smaller layer, and then I'm going to come down to my toolbar on the bottom here, and I'm going to click on Join. And what that's going to do, I'll just move this to the side so you can see it, is actually cut the circle out of the tag. So let's just move that one aside, and now I'm going to do the same thing with this tag. Select the circle and the shadow tag, click on Join, and now I've got the circle cut out of that layer as well. So you can see once I move these back and line them up again, I've got this nice shadow outlined tag with the circle cut through both shapes. So once you cut that out on your cutter using Make the Cut, then you can dress your tag up any way you like and add it to your project.